Now guys, years ago Volkswagen introduced a new range called the ID range, and it launched with the ID.3, and today there's a new one called the ID.3 Neo. And there's actually quite a few changes on it, especially on the inside where they've actually introduced buttons back to the steering wheel. No more haptic touch stuff anymore. So here's everything you need to know about this new model. Now, starting on the exterior first thing guys, well, first and foremost, it definitely looks a little wider than before. I think it's just due to slight change on some of the panels, and I will add, this is what I describe as a very heavy facelift. It does resemble quite a lot of the similar proportions that the previous car had, but slightly different light bar on the front here, again with a typical Volkswagen illuminated badge in the middle. And then move around to the side of the car and of course the rear. I'll be honest, it does look very, 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 very similar. But most of the changes are of course on the inside, which I wanted to touch on because, as I said, Volkswagen have gone to town with listening to customer feedback over the past few years, and that is in part thanks to the CEO of Volkswagen, Thomas Schaefer. I was actually at the kind of almost like world premiere or the announcement of this car to media last night, and he was explaining that the amount of people who have come forward with feedback, and this is one of his quotes. The ID.3 Neo conveys the feeling of sitting in a vehicle from the mid-range class instead of the compact class. So yes, it might look very, very similar on the outside. The changes are massive on the inside. Very quickly, just to finish on the exterior though, if you are curious, the dimensions are 4287, 1809 and 1554 for the length, width and height. And here's the old ID.3 just for reference. So despite it being the same width, I think it's just some sort of trickery they're doing with the lights and the design at the front. But anyway, let's have a look at the inside. So yes, what Volkswagen have done is basically upped the material quality on the inside. And as I said, they've had lots of feedback over the past, well, I'd actually say quite a few years from customers, from things like the multimedia system to buttons with touch controls, and we see it all the time, especially all the car reviews that I get involved with on YouTube and that I produce on my channel. High gloss black everywhere, touch buttons, and I just don't know what car manufacturers do these days when they decide on those materials used. But look at this, buttons on the steering wheel and nice high quality buttons as well. They're not cheap. They do sound nice. And over here, climate control buttons. Again, same thing. And just all round the quality as well. You've got leather up here, squidgy leather materials everywhere. So yeah, what Volkswagen have done, they've basically just listened to their customers and said, okay, we're going to give you exactly what you want. They've even changed the multimedia system too. Now certainly when I first started covering Volkswagen on my channel, I actually only saw the new system. I did actually jump in an older Golf with that older system, and yeah, I can see the huge changes. This one apparently is even better. I haven't had a huge amount of time with it, and I would like to get it on test for review somewhere, particularly in some other Volkswagen models as well, where apparently this is coming out. But of course, it will do everything you want it to, but there's an extra few things it can do. Things like there's a shop on here, so you can download extra apps. There's Spotify integration, there's games on here, and I get it. A car is for a car for driving, but hey, it's cool to have these things that can keep the kids entertained, or particularly if you're charging at a public charging spot, you can just have a quick game and just catch up on some BB Racing 2, for example. But yeah, for existing ID.3 owners, similar gear stick there, start stop button down there, wipers up there, so that's similar. It's just a few improvements all round in some places. In fact, to be honest, the only high gloss black surface I see in here is the volume control. That's the only thing. The rest of it is completely changed, so all round I think that's pretty good. Also, this is the first time I'm seeing this. This is like a sort of retro design going on here, because look at this display here, this instrument cluster. You've got all these like retro dials here, even the mileage counter as well, the charge speed and stuff like that, all leaning on that sort of retro vibe. That coupled with this steering wheel and all the buttons, it's, I don't know, it's just refreshing to kind of go back to that. I'm older than I look, you know. But yes, I'm just so glad that Volkswagen are doing that. Oh yeah, here's another thing. You know that annoying rear button where you had to press the button to operate the rear windows? Yeah, they also listened to the customers on that one as well. There are buttons here now for the rear windows. I know it seems silly, I have to mention this, but hey, they've done it. Now, as with all new launches of cars, especially like first impressions videos like this, sadly, they haven't announced the exact pricing of this model just yet. So keep an eye out for the full review, or obviously keep an eye out with Volkswagen, and I'm sure they'll announce it in the next few months or so. However, the specs that I do know, keep an eye out because there's going to be a few different trims from Trend, Life and Style, available with 170 PS all the way up to 231 PS. Another thing to note is the battery capacity. Apparently it's going to be 3 now, so it's going to be a 50 kilowatt hour battery, 58 and 79. Now, range of this car is also going to go up to 391 miles. Of course, that is for the largest battery. If you go for the smallest battery, this will be about 259 miles. So just something to factor in. But hey, look, 391 miles is quite impressive. That's almost what petrol engines do. So yeah, no complaints on that. Now, when it comes to the boot capacity on this one is 387 litres, which again is kind of on par for compact cars. It's kind of what we expect. But if you fold the seats down, it'll go to 1267. Usual way, fold the seats down at the top, just up here. Sadly, there is no frunk. I did check that out, but of course, as this is just a facelift, the overall proportions of the car haven't changed, so they've still got components right up the front. But there is a bit of space under here, just a tiny bit. You could put like a very small thing under there, charging cables there, so it doesn't eat into the space on the top. But thought I'd just show that, just in case you were wondering. So yes, guys, there we go. That is the Volkswagen ID.3 Neo. New name, slightly different design on the exterior, and then loads of changes on the interior. I'm curious to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see you then.